A cold rain hammered the windows of the luxury dealership as the final mechanic stepped away from the orange sports car and shook his head. "Impossible," he muttered. The CEO stood nearby with folded arms, exhausted and angry. The engine had defeated every specialist in the building. Thousands of dollars had already been wasted. Customers were watching. Employees were whispering. And by midnight, the dealership that prided itself on perfection looked completely helpless. But in the back corner of the garage, a tired single father quietly kept mopping the floor. No one noticed him. No one imagined he would be the one to change everything before sunrise. Before we begin, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below for more heartfelt stories here on Echoes of Stories. Your support helps us bring inspiring stories of kindness, hope, and second chances to people everywhere. The rain kept falling outside the showroom in downtown Chicago. Inside, tension filled every inch of the dealership. Victoria Langston, the CEO of Langston Luxury Motors, stared at the orange vintage sports car like it had personally betrayed her. The car belonged to a wealthy collector who planned to showcase it at a major automotive event the next morning. If the engine wasn't fixed by dawn, the dealership's reputation would take a massive hit. 3 senior mechanics had already given up. "We replaced everything we could think of," one of them said. "The engine should work. But it doesn't." Victoria rubbed her temples. She hadn't slept in nearly 2 days. "Then figure it out," she snapped. But nobody moved. Across the garage, Marcus Reed quietly pushed his mop bucket past the service bays. At 38 years old, Marcus worked nights cleaning the dealership after hours. During the day, he raised his 8-year-old son Tyler alone in a tiny apartment across town. Life had not been kind to Marcus lately. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness. Medical bills drained their savings. He lost his mechanic job shortly after because he missed too much work caring for her. Since then, he bounced between small jobs trying to keep food on the table. Still, Marcus never complained. Every night after work, he came home exhausted, yet somehow still found energy to help Tyler with homework, cook dinner, and tell bedtime stories. As Marcus cleaned near the sports car, he overheard the mechanics talking. "It's the electrical timing system," one said. "No," another argued. "We already checked that twice." Marcus glanced at the engine. Then he stopped mopping. Something about the sound earlier had bothered him. A memory stirred in his mind from years ago when he worked in a small family garage with his father. He hesitated. People like him didn't interrupt executives and certified specialists. But finally, he cleared his throat softly. "Excuse me," Marcus said. Nobody looked at him at first. "I think, maybe it's not the timing system." The room went silent. One mechanic actually laughed. Victoria turned slowly. "What did you say?" Marcus looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I just noticed something." The mechanics exchanged amused looks. "You clean floors," one of them said. "We fix engines." Marcus nodded quietly. "Yes, sir." Victoria sighed impatiently. "We don't have time for this." Marcus lowered his eyes and returned to mopping. But then something unexpected happened. The oldest mechanic in the room, Frank Delgado, looked at Marcus carefully. "Wait," Frank said. "What did you notice?" Marcus swallowed nervously. When the engine tried to turn over earlier, there was a tiny delay before the fuel response. It reminded me of an airflow imbalance I saw years ago. The room became quiet again. Frank frowned thoughtfully. "Airflow?" Marcus nodded slowly. "Maybe one of the intake valves isn't sealing correctly when the engine heats up." One mechanic rolled his eyes. "That makes no sense." But Frank stared at the engine longer. Then he looked at Victoria. "At this point, we've tried everything else." Victoria folded her arms. Fine. 5 minutes. Marcus carefully stepped closer to the car. His hands trembled slightly as he examined the engine. For the first time in years, he touched machinery again. It felt strangely familiar. Comforting. Like meeting an old friend. He asked for a flashlight. One mechanic reluctantly handed it over. Marcus inspected the intake system quietly. Then he reached toward a small section near the rear valve assembly. There, he whispered. Frank leaned closer. What is it? Marcus pointed carefully. Tiny crack in the vacuum seal. It expands when the engine heats up. The mechanic who mocked him frowned. That tiny thing couldn't shut down the whole engine. Marcus looked uncertain again. Maybe not normally. But with this custom setup. I think it could. Victoria stared impatiently. Can it be fixed? Marcus nodded slowly. Temporarily tonight. Properly tomorrow. Frank immediately grabbed tools. For the next hour, the garage changed completely. The same mechanics who ignored Marcus now worked beside him. Victoria watched silently as Marcus explained each step carefully and respectfully. He never bragged. Never acted smarter than anyone else. He simply wanted to help. At nearly 2 a.m., Marcus finally stepped back from the engine. Try it now. The mechanic turned the key. For one terrifying second, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the engine roared to life. The entire garage froze. The sound echoed beautifully through the building like thunder after a storm. One mechanic actually shouted in disbelief. Frank burst into laughter. Even Victoria looked stunned. The impossible engine was running perfectly. Marcus smiled softly, but only for a moment. Then he quietly picked up his mop again as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But Victoria stopped him. Where did you learn all this? Marcus looked uncomfortable. My father owned a repair shop when I was younger. And you clean floors now? Marcus gave a small shrug. Work is work. Victoria stared at him for a long moment. Then she noticed something else. His shoes were worn out. His hands were rough from labor. And despite helping save her business, he still looked worried. Not proud. Worried. Why? She asked quietly. Marcus hesitated. I need to leave soon. My son wakes up early for school. Something about that answer hit Victoria harder than she expected. This man had spent all night saving a company that barely noticed him, and all he cared about was getting home to his child. For the first time in years, Victoria felt ashamed. Ashamed of how quickly she judged people. Ashamed of how invisible Marcus had been inside her own building. The next morning, the collector arrived and was amazed by the perfectly running car. The dealership's reputation was saved. But that wasn't the real miracle. Later that afternoon, Marcus received a phone call asking him to come back to the dealership. When he arrived, Victoria personally greeted him. She handed him a small box. Inside were brand new mechanic tools. Marcus looked speechless. You earned these, she said. Then she handed him another paper. It was a full-time job offer. Senior Restoration Specialist. Marcus stared at the paper with trembling hands. I don't understand, he whispered. Victoria smiled gently. Kind people deserve second chances too. Marcus couldn't speak. For years, life had pushed him down again and again. Yet somehow, he never became bitter. He kept helping others. Kept working hard. Kept showing kindness even when nobody noticed. And in one single night, that kindness changed his entire life. A few weeks later, Tyler proudly sat in the dealership office doing homework while his father worked on engines again. Employees who once ignored Marcus now greeted him with respect every morning. But Marcus never forgot where he came from. Every night before leaving work, he still helped the cleaning staff stack chairs and empty trash bins. Because he understood something many people forget. No job makes someone more valuable than another. And sometimes, the quietest people carry the greatest gifts. Kindness is powerful that way. It sees people others overlook. It restores dignity where the world has taken it away. And sometimes, it turns an exhausted single dad with a mop into the hero nobody expected. So tonight, remember this. The smallest act of respect can completely change someone's life. And the person standing quietly in the corner may be carrying a story, a talent, or a heart far greater than anyone realizes. Until next time, keep spreading kindness, keep believing in second chances, and keep listening for the echoes of stories that remind us all what truly matters.